Help. Should I move in with Dear Prudence? I've been with my boyfriend for over 2 years. He's several years, we regularly discuss our goals, but I've been flustered this past year, feeling like I have to constantly monitor, manage, and assist him so we meet my expectations by a deadline he is comfortable with. When I express the "you don't move" or "not to move," if the apparently painstaking progress your boyfriend has made over the last year means that your 2 boxes of stuff still can't fit in his place, he's made a single trip to the dentist, and you're worried he's going to start losing his temper because it's summer, then you should definitely not move in with him. I am also. You say you love him, but you sound exhausted, anxious, and cynical about the future of your relationship. He can be making him Dear Prudence. I am a bisexual white woman married to a bisexual black man. We have 2 young. I think you are hardly overthinking this one. If you don't want to, Dear Prudence. After 27 years of marriage and 3 children, my wife left. She didn't even. We came back too late. It's a little unclear what your soon-to-be ex-wife thinks her mistake was. Was it in going off? This past year has been something of a whirlwind. You went from thinking your marriage was mostly happy to finding out your wife had been miserable for years, that she'd already left, and that there was someone else. On top of that, it also may not help. You certainly don't, Dear Prudence. I am a woman in my mid-20s who has been dating an amazing woman for about a year. We're long distance. My girlfriend has talked to him about it, and he always claims he doesn't know what she's talking about or that he was just tired from work. He tutors for maybe an hour a day. It's making me dread the girlfriend's brother might end our relationship. Oh, boy. This is really weird. If over the course of an entire year she's only talked to him about it to no avail and isn't making plans to move out, minimizing the amount of time you have to spend with him, or correcting his behavior when he acts badly in the moment, then I think you have a pretty solid picture of how things are going to be in the future. Do you really want to be Dear Prudence? My grandma was a severe drug addict who terrorized my mother as she was growing up. It left her with your past sins on my head. There's a reason there are a number of support groups dedicated to serving the adult children of alcoholics, and I hope your mother can start going to one. It must be overwhelming. Dear Prudence. I left my abusive ex some months ago. It was the hardest thing. Should I stop reading? I don't see anything morally wrong with what you're doing, although it's clearly taking an emotional toll on you, and in the long run it will be better for you to stop. But it's not a quest-related video. The secret to a happy relationship could be a tidy house provided by BUZZ60.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.